The phone lit the dark lounge at 3:07 a.m., and the preview read, "Don't come." Emma said, "Lucas, what does that mean?" as her stomach dropped like a missed step on an escalator. The airport speakers hissed with delays, and hope thinned like the coffee she gripped. Emma said, "Our flight number is still on the board," and she stared as if staring could summon him. A janitor's cart rattled by, and the wheels sounded like a countdown to humiliation. Emma said, "You promised you'd be on the red eye," while her reflection trembled in the glass. Another text arrived. "Something came up, I'll explain later." Emma said, "Later is a country I can't afford to visit," and her thumbs hovered, useless and shaking. In the window, she saw herself small and stubborn, the way love can shrink a person. Emma said, "I waited through storms and pay cuts, you can cross a sky," and the words tasted like metal. Her boarding pass felt heavy for a flight that now carried no one. Emma said, "Answer me," and a man 2 seats over pretended not to hear the break in her voice. The screen stayed blue with silence, and the carpet's pattern swam under her tired eyes. Emma said, "I'm here, Lucas. I did my part," and the clock above her shrugged forward. A final message arrived. "I never left my city." Emma said, "Then why did you ask me to wait?" And the lounge air turned cold and thin. The word "never" hung like a cracked ceiling tile over Emma's head, and the room seemed to tilt. Emma said, "You had days to warn me," and her pulse tapped a drumline in her throat. Her suitcase leaned against her leg like a loyal dog that didn't understand betrayal. Emma said, "I traded shifts to make this, Lucas," and the memory of bargaining hours pinched her chest. The lounge TV showed a quiet beach ad that mocked her with impossible peace. Emma said, "Tell me the truth, not shapes of excuses," and she rubbed a smudge from her screen. A gate agent's smile to another couple sliced her with how easy it looked. Emma said, "Was there ever a plan or only a promise you liked saying?" And the syllables stung. Her boarding pass felt like a ticket to nowhere, paper that refused to turn into a door. Emma said, "I kept believing distance was geography, not avoidance," and heat pooled behind her eyes. The text bubble stayed empty, a small stage where honesty refused to appear. Emma said, "I can forgive a storm, but I can't forgive a secret flight that never started." Maya's name glowed in Emma's recents, and pride wrestled with the urge to call. Emma said, "She'll say I told you so," and shame crawled up her neck like static. A message drafted and deleted left a ghost impression on her mind. Emma said, "No, I need a witness," and tapped the screen with a small desperate courage. Maya answered on the second ring, voice warm and sharp like a rescue flare. Maya said, "What happened now?" and the words carried a weary tenderness. Emma said, "He never left his city," and the lounge swallowed the confession whole. Maya said, "Then he never planned to meet you," and the truth landed with brutal elegance. Emma said, "I kept defending him to you, to everyone," and her cheeks burned. Maya said, "You defended a promise, not a person," and the silence that followed clicked. Emma said, "If I go home, I lose the dream," and the boy on the ad surfed forever. Maya said, "If you stay, you lose yourself," and the line hummed like a warning wire. The rumor of Arya returned like a splinter Emma never dug out, small and poisonous. Emma said, "He swore she was just a coworker," and memory replayed their late-night photos. A laugh in the next row sounded like Arya's glossy confidence. Emma said, "Maybe I imagined it," and the lie tasted chalky, brittle on her tongue. Her phone showed an old thread where Lucas dodged the simplest questions. Emma said, "Who picks you up from the airport?" and his answer had been a joke. The joke now felt like camouflage, loud and clever to hide the quiet truth. Emma said, "If Arya exists in this, tell me," and the cursor blinked like a heartbeat. A luggage zipper sang open nearby, and a couple traded easy smiles that stung. Emma said, "I pinned my future to a person who won't confirm the present." The boarding doors stayed closed, sentries guarding a fantasy. Emma said, "If you wanted me, you'd be on a plane, not a story." A final brittle courage rose, and Emma typed the words that would split the night. Emma said, "I'm boarding without you, or I'm leaving without us," and her pulse steadied. The sentence felt like stepping onto ice that might finally hold. Emma said, "You get one truth now," and she hovered over send with a small prayer. Across the glass, the sky bruised toward morning, purple fading to steel. Emma said, "I deserve reality, not rehearsed apologies," and her shoulders unlocked. A cleaning light swept the carpet, revealing nothing special, just wear and tear. Emma said, "If you stay there for good," and the words rang clean. Her reflection looked older and braver, as if the night had carved new lines. Emma said, "I'm done waiting in rooms you won't enter," and she hit send. The message left with a soft whoosh, and the silence that followed felt purposeful. Emma said, "Whatever answers come, I'll be awake to meet them," and the lounge exhaled. The airport dawn bled into memory like watercolor, and Emma's reasons rose in careful order. Emma said, "I stayed because you made distance sound like a bridge." She remembered Raymond nights, spreadsheets, and rent split by hope. Emma said, "I saved for flights the way people save for rings." She counted every overtime shift like beads on a rosary of faith. Emma said, "You said love is logistics and courage." She set alarms for his time zone and lived by 2 clocks. Emma said, "I learned your city's bus lines by heart." Her mother's warnings rattled in drawers she refused to open. Emma said, "I loved the quiet victories, the shared playlists, the dawn hellos." The lounge chilled, and her reasons warmed her like a thin coat. Tuition bills and side gigs marched across a year, and Emma stacked them like proof. Emma said, "I picked shifts others dodged to meet you halfway." She wore second-hand boots and first-rate faith. Emma said, "I canceled birthdays, but I kept your calls." She ate break room cake alone, while his voice filled the silence. Emma said, "I learned to celebrate the small pings." Packages crossed borders when bodies could not. Emma said, "I mailed you a scarf I could not afford." She pictured him in winter light, and the image kept her brave. Emma said, "Every dollar was a mile I paid for love." The calculator closed, the cost remained. Her family measured futures in stable jobs and close dinners, and the world felt small and stern. Emma said, "I can make my own map." Her father's sighs were soft doors closing. Emma said, "He respects my plans, though respect arrived late and thin." Aunties counted milestones like coins and frowned. Emma said, "Distance isn't rebellion, it's strategy." She hid boarding passes in cookbooks. Emma said, "When I say yes to him, I say yes to me." The kitchen clock scolded, and she stared it down. Emma said, "I will come home with something worth the wait." The promise sounded brave until morning. Maya carried truth like a spare key and used it when doors stuck. Maya said, "You deserve presents, not promises." Emma's chest tightened, then loosened. Emma said, "He can be kind when he tries." Maya's laugh was a bandage that stung. Maya said, "Kindness must show up on time." Emma replayed laughter that lived on screens. Emma said, "He said we're building habits." Maya said, "You're building alone." Emma's loyalty felt heavy and bright. Emma said, "If I let go, I fall through everything I built." Maya said, "Or you land." The line stayed open, like a hand. The first night they met lived in her bones, like a remembered song. Emma said, "You looked lost at the debate, and I showed you the shuttle." Lucas had grinned like a dare wrapped in charm. Lucas said, "I owe you a city tour, wherever you are." The promise stuck like a sticker on a suitcase. Emma said, "You made far feel near with a joke." They traded cities like postcards and mapped a future in ink. Emma said, "I believed the map would survive the weather." She held the memory beside the new text. Emma said, "Was it always a sketch?" The answer hid in the smudge. The morning crawled over the runway, and Emma's phone lit with old promises that felt like receipts. Emma said, "You said today is the day," and the ache rang like metal in a cold sink. Notifications stacked like bricks, heavy and square against her ribs. Emma said, "You never left, but I did," and the lounge brightness mocked her with tidy floors. A photo surfaced of Lucas at a bar, time-stamped last night, all neon and easy smiles. Emma said, "You were busy not boarding," and jealousy pricked like static. The caption named co-workers, and one laugh looked like Aria's silhouette. Emma said, "Tell me there's a reason that is not her," and silence pressed down. She pictured the red eye he dodged, a door he never touched. Emma said, "I built a bridge. You kept a couch," and her throat tightened. A toddler giggled nearby, proof that somewhere people arrive. Emma said, "I don't want revenge, I want clarity," and the word felt clean. The board clicked and ignored her private disaster. Emma said, "I won't be the only one telling the truth," and a small, grim steadiness settled. Outside the terminal, dawn bleached the clouds and breath steamed like quiet vows breaking. Emma said, "Call me now," and the ringtones climbed a ladder to nowhere. Voicemail arrived with his practiced warmth and no answers. Emma said, "You sound present only when you're recorded," and frustration pulsed. A rideshare idled, and the driver watched her with polite silence. Emma said, "Take me home," and the word home felt provisional. The city woke like a giant who didn't care who hurt beneath its feet. Emma said, "This is the distance you wanted," and her chest hollowed. A billboard bragged about togetherness and she almost laughed. Emma said, "I won't audition for my own life," and the car slid onto the wet road. Her thumb hovered over Maya's name and found courage. Emma said, "I need you," and the plea softened the edges of the morning. Maya answered before the second ring, solid as a handrail. Maya said, "I'm here," and the relief was immediate and costly. The apartment smelled like detergent and old coffee, a shrine to effort and thrift. Emma said, "I kept us alive on coupons and faith," and the door clicked shut with weary finality. She spread the scarf receipt beside rent stubs and flight alerts. Emma said, "You knew what this cost," and her jaw locked. A group text chimed with Lucas tagged in an office pizza night. Emma said, "While I counted coins, you counted slices," and shame flushed her. She stared at the map they drew with pins and thread. Emma said this was supposed to tighten, not tangle, and she lifted a pin that had no city beneath it. The silence was fat with unsent apologies. Emma said, "You made me a volunteer for my own neglect," and the truth steadied her spine. A kettle clicked off, forgotten in its small duty. Emma said, "I can forgive delay, not theater," and the word theater felt expensive. She opened his chat and typed without trembling. Emma said, "Explain, or be brave enough to say you want." Lucas texted, "It's complicated," as if complexity were a virtue. Emma said, "Complicated is what people say when simple is cruel," and her pulse steadied. He added, "Work meltdown, late meetings, zero sleep." Emma said, "Your bar photo was well rested," and the answer stalled. A new bubble appeared, then vanished like a coward's footprint in surf. Emma said, "Is Aria in this story?" and she refused to dress the question in kindness. 3 dots flickered like a faulty star. Emma said, "I won't be managed with ellipses," and the apartment felt larger. The kettle finally cooled, and with it, something inside her. Emma said, "If there's nothing to hide, call," and the phone stayed inert. An email pinged with a seat sale to his city, a joke with teeth. Emma said, "I'm done buying hope on discount," and she closed the tab. The mirror showed eyes that had learned new grammar. Maya arrived with rain on her jacket and a look that cut softly. Maya said, "I brought bagels and bluntness and set them down like offerings." Emma said, "I asked if Aria is part of this," and the room waited. Maya said, "If she is, he isn't," and the clarity was a bell. Emma said, "I want proof, not theories," and hunger finally returned. Maya said, "Proof is his job," and she poured tea like a ritual for the living. Emma said, "I can't be the only adult here," and the steam fogged the chipped mug. Maya said, "Choose a boundary and keep it," and the words fit like armor. Emma said, "No more midnight saving," and her shoulders lowered. Maya said, "Say it to him, and mean it," and the air seemed cleaner. Emma said, "Explain or we end," and the sentence held. Outside, the rain relented, thin and decisive. The email pinged like a siren, and a bank alert opened with a list of transfers that hurt to read. Emma said, "Why is my scarf refund in your account, not mine?" And the page scrolled like a slow bruise. A line item showed money she sent for his ticket, redirected later that night. Emma said, "You moved it," then posted drinks, and the digits glared like witnesses. Maya said, "Look at the memo," and the note read A. Rivera, with a smiley like a smudge. Emma said, "Arias' last name is Rivera," and the room tilted. The scarf receipt neighbored the bar charge like two hands not touching. Maya said, "You don't need a smoking gun, just a boundary," and the kettle hissed. Emma said, "He told me he never left his city," and the words sounded smaller than their damage. The cursor blinked beside a draft that asked only for truth. Emma said, "If this is a mistake, it is his to fix," and her spine found steel. The rain had stopped, but the floor still shone with the night's wreckage. The call connected with static that felt like a warning, and his voice arrived soft and busy. Lucas said, "It's complicated," and the phrase clattered like cheap armor. Emma said, "Complicated isn't a receipt with her name," and the line went thin. He said, "An emergency needed cash," and the story shifted like sand. Emma said, "You could have told me before I waited under airport lights," and the quiet pulsed. He said, "I didn't want to worry you," and she heard the rehearsal in it. Emma said, "You turned me into an investor with no shares," and the image bit deep. He said, "Aria was nearby. She fronted a ride," and the word nearby burned. Emma said, "Was she nearby last night at the bar?" and the silence admitted more than he did. He said, "We're friends," and the vowel bent under the weight of it. Emma said, "Friends don't spend my ticket to cover your night," and the city traffic answered for him. A new number flashed, and the text arrived neat and polite like a pressed shirt. Aria said, "He gave me your number so we could clear air," and Emma swallowed heat. Emma said, "Clear whose air?" and the dots marched. Aria said, "He told me you were on a break and asked for a ride," and the ground shifted. Emma said, "We were not a break, we were a bridge," and the words held. Aria said, "I dropped him at his place after the bar. He crashed, and the scene bloomed ugly." Emma said, "He told me meetings and zero sleep," and the lie rang dull. Aria said, "If I'm the problem, I'll step back," and the offer felt heavy and late. Emma said, "The problem is truth that never boards," and the metaphor cut. Aria said, "You deserve better answers than me," and the bubble closed. Emma said, "Then he will give them now," and her thumb tightened on resolve. The family thread lit up with weekend plans, and duty tugged while truth knocked louder. Mother said, "Come for dinner. We miss your laugh," and the text glowed warm. Emma said, "I will come, and I will not bring a fantasy," and the vow settled. Father said, "We want your happiness in the same city as your body," and it stung tenderly. Emma said, "My body stood in a lounge all night. My hope waited longer, and the memory burned." She opened their map and pulled a pin that never earned its place. Emma said, "I won't let a lie sit at our table," and the air felt cleaner. An email from work offered overtime, a quiet raft toward distance. Emma said, "I will rebuild with hours that answer back," and the screen steadied. The kettle clicked like a metronome, and she found a crisp rhythm. Emma said, "I'm ending the part of me that keeps excuses warm," and the room agreed. Proof arrived wearing casual joy, a tagged brunch photo with Lucas mid-laugh and sunlit. Emma said, "This was posted an hour after my airport night," and the timeline snapped. Lucas said, "It's old, it just went up," and the hedge wobbled. Emma said, "Your watch shows today's weather alert," and the detail pinned him. He said, "I panicked," and panic sounded like preference. Emma said, "You saved yourself the discomfort of showing up," and the mirror did not flinch. He said, "I didn't want to lose you," and the claim came empty-handed. Emma said, "You lost me when the truth cost you a cab," and the echo was clean. The bridge she built folded with a quiet, unromantic grace. Emma said, "Send the money back and the truth with it," and the sentence shone. The three dots failed to become a call, and the twist completed itself. The phone rang like a siren in a tunnel, and Emma braced as if for impact. Emma said, "You will not script me. Speak plainly," and the clock on the wall refused to help. Lucas said, "I panicked and borrowed from what you sent," and the room cooled. Emma said, "You borrowed trust and spent it," and her breath came slow. Lucas said, "It was one bad night," and the excuse lay there, thin and brittle. Emma said, "It was 100 small nights that trained this one," and her spine held. Lucas said, "I didn't know you were at the airport so early," and the lie blinked. Emma said, "You texted me at 3:07, and the timestamp cut clean." Lucas said, "I meant to come," and his voice looked around for exits. Emma said, "You meant to be adored," and the truth landed. Lucas said, "I want to fix this," and the floorboard sighed. Emma said, "Return the money today and say her name out loud," and silence crowded in. Static snapped like dry twigs before Lucas found words that shook. Lucas said, "Aria gave me a ride, and stayed until I slept," and the admission wobbled. Emma said, "Then honesty slept in the hall," and her hand steadied. Lucas said nothing happened, and the phrase begged. Emma said everything happened when I waited alone, and it cleared the air. Lucas said, "I didn't want you to hate me," and the police sagged. Emma said, "You wanted me to stay kind in the dark," and the lamp hummed. Lucas said, "I thought we were on a break," and the echo sounded rehearsed. Emma said, "You thought convenience is permission," and the edge held. Lucas said, "I can book a flight now," and the offer rang late. Emma said, "You can book your integrity first," and the room agreed. Lucas said, "Tell me a way back," and hope scratched. Emma said, "Return what you took and don't ask me to carry you." Maya stood nearby like a lighthouse whose beam did not waver. Maya said, "Say the line you promised," and her voice cut sweet and exact. Emma said, "Explain or we end," and the words rang like metal. Lucas said, "Money will be back by sunset," and urgency crept in. Emma said, "I want truth before transfers," and the order mattered. Lucas said, "I leaned on Aria because she was close," and the limit cracked. Emma said, "You leaned on me because I was far and soft," and steel rose. Maya said, "Name your boundary," and the air sharpened. Emma said, "No more secret help, no blurred nights, no debt in my name," and the room brightened. Lucas said, "I can meet every rule," and the promise felt padded. Emma said, "You can meet them without me," and the cliff appeared. Lucas said, "Don't do this," and the plea echoed. Emma said, "I already did it at the gate you never reached," and the moment broke clean. The call shifted to video and brought his room into her life like an unwelcome guest. Lucas said, "See, I'm alone," and the camera panned clumsily. Emma said, "You're alone because truth empties rooms," and the shot steadied. A scarf she mailed hung behind him like an unpaid bill. Emma said, "Send that back too," and he flinched. Lucas said, "It kept me warm," and the words tried to be tender. Emma said, "Warm is not the same as good," and the phrase landed soft and final. Lucas said, "I can come tomorrow," and the offer sagged. Emma said, "I waited yesterday," and time itself closed the door. Lucas said, "Please," and the appeal went thin. Emma said, "We don't survive on please," and the quiet rang. Lucas said, "I love you," and it arrived with receipts attached. Emma said, "Then you should have traveled with it," and the screen dimmed a little. The final push came without shouting, only precision that left no air for doubt. Emma said, "This is the last call," and the ultimatum rested, unshaken. Lucas said, "Tell me how to fix us," and the word us felt forged from habit. Emma said, "You fix you, and you don't ask me to watch," and peace entered. Lucas said, "I'll wire it now," and keys clacked like hail. Emma said, "Send the receipt and block the exits to your old patterns," and the future rearranged. Lucas said, "Will you wait?" and the echo met a wall. Emma said, "I won't wait for what won't walk," and the bridge folded. Lucas said, "I'm sorry," and the apology stood without shelter. Emma said, "So am I," and sorrow left without taking her. The notification chimed, proof arriving cold and correct. Emma said, "Goodbye," and the word was a door that locked itself. The city breathed, and she breathed with it, fully. Morning arrived without fanfare, and the quiet felt earned rather than empty. Emma said, "Today, start small," and she folded the blanket with deliberate grace. The apartment held less of him, more of air. Emma said, "I'll keep the window open," and the city answered with soft traffic. She brewed coffee that tasted like possibility, not penance. Emma said, "I forgive the dream, not the damage," and the mug warmed her palms. A calendar square waited to be filled by her own handwriting. Emma said, "I choose work, walks, and sleep that doesn't beg," and her breath evened. She placed the scarf in a box for return, steady and kind. Emma said, "What I keep is mine," and the room agreed. Outside, clouds lifted like a curtain on a clearer set. At the river path, wind combed the water into patient lines, and time slowed down. Emma said, "Every step is a sentence I get to write," and gravel answered underfoot. Cyclists passed like brief thoughts that didn't linger. Emma said, "The body knows before the heart admits," and her shoulders dropped. She let the phone stay quiet, a miracle of restraint. Emma said, "Silence can be mercy," and a gull stitched the air above her. The skyline felt honest, steel with no promises. Emma said, "I'm not a lesson for someone else," and the pace steadied. Sun pressed through the cloud lid, like a measured blessing. Emma said, "I will not measure love by endurance again," and the river kept her secret. A bridge ahead invited her across, but only for herself. Maya met her at the market where oranges stacked like tiny suns against gray day. Maya said, "You look lighter," and the truth sat kindly between them. Emma said, "I slept without rehearsing," and she reached for basil. Vendors called prices that felt like music. Maya said, "Let's plan something that arrives," and the joke landed bright. Emma said, "Dinner at my place, honest food only," and they laughed. A memory tried to set the table for two ghosts, and failed. Maya said, "That's grief finishing its turn," and the phrase fit. Emma said, "I want a life that answers back," and colors seemed louder. They chose bread that promised to be enough without apology. At her parents' table, steam rose from rice like blessings she finally let land. "Mother," said, "you look rested," and pride hid inside the softness. Emma said, "I chose to stop waiting," and a quiet relief traveled the room. Father said, "We wanted you near your own peace," and the words found purchase. Emma said, "I can be near and still be me," and the lesson felt earned. They passed dishes like small affirmations that didn't demand return. Emma said, "Love won't be a debt again," and the chopsticks clicked a gentle rhythm. Mother smiled and set aside an extra sweet without asking. Emma said, "Thank you for guarding me while I learned," and warmth settled. Outside, porch lights stitched a calm perimeter through the damp. Back home, the map on her wall waited like a question she could finally answer. Emma said, "I keep the places, not the promises," and she removed the thread. Pins stayed as memories without assignments. Emma said, "Travel will be for wonder, not rescue," and the room brightened. A new folder opened on her laptop named after. Emma said, "Apply for the residency," and the cursor leapt forward. She wrote an essay that did not argue with itself. Emma said, "I will arrive for me," and the line glowed. The night outside was honest, quiet, and wide. Emma said, "Tomorrow is mine to meet," and she slept on time. No alarms for another time zone, just her own. Morning found the same airport turned harmless, and Emma walked the concourse like a museum of last night. Emma said, "I am here to finish what I started," and the air felt ordinary at last. The lounge chairs looked less like witnesses and more like furniture. Emma said, "You are only chairs," and the memory flinched and faded. A gate agent laughed at a joke she could not hear, and the sound did not bruise. Emma said, "I carried the ache, now I carry myself," and her steps matched the announcer's calm cadence. She paused where the message landed and touched the glass like a farewell. Emma said, I don't wait for storms that will not break, and her breath did not fog. A child tugged a suitcase shaped like a rocket and grinned at flight. Emma said, go, small astronaut, and the blessing surprised her with its ease. She bought a tea and paid with her own future. Emma said, no more rescues, only arrivals. And the tea tasted honest. The board clicked, and none of the names belonged to her. Emma said, that is freedom, not loss, and the day opened. The post office hummed with errands and small redemptions, and Emma stood in line with a plain box. Emma said, you do not belong to me, and the scarf lay folded like a finished chapter. The clerk asked about insurance, and she shook her head with a smile that held. Emma said, I am not insuring the past, and the tape pulled smooth. She printed the label and felt something lighter peel away with it. Emma said, return to sender and keep going, and the barcode blinked acceptance. Outside, buses sighed and moved on time with nobody begging them to wait. Emma said, I was never meant to be a delay, and her shoulders settled. A message preview flashed and hid like a skittish bird. Emma said, not now, and the screen stayed dim. She kept walking toward a day she had chosen and did not need permission for. Emma said, I step into my own weather, and her pace answered. The box slid into the bin with a sound like closure that kept echoing. In the evening, the kitchen filled with garlic and music that asked for nothing back, and Maya danced a little with a spoon. Maya said, you cooked joy, and the words landed like applause. Emma said, it does not overpromise, and she plated the simple feast. They ate bread that did not require rationing, and laughed at a meme that aged badly. Maya said, your face forgot the airport color, and relief warmed the room. Emma said, sleep found me on time, and the clock agreed. They toasted to deadlines that kept their promises. Maya said, you chose yourself without punishing him, and grace drew near. Emma said, he can fix his life where he lives, and the sentence closed gently. The window showed a sky, refusing drama. Emma said, I will keep the quiet and invite the bright, and a song's chorus lifted. They stacked dishes that did not feel like penance, and left them there on purpose. Later, the phone glowed with a long message whose paragraphs tried to become a doorback, and the cursor begged. Lucas said, I understand now, and the claim felt late. Emma said, understanding is not the same as showing up, and her chest stayed steady. He said, I booked a flight anyway, and the old magic reached for the old wires. Emma said, flights are only movement, not meaning, and the spell did not catch. Another preview appeared from area that contained only a quiet apology. Emma said, thank you for the clean line, and the knot loosened. He wrote, we can reset, and the sentence looked borrowed. Emma said, we are not a device, and the light dimmed as if on cue. She saved the messages for no one, and set the phone face down. Emma said, peace is also a choice, and it did not demand proof. The room breathed like a friend who knew when to keep still. Before sleep, Emma walked the map with her fingertip and felt curiosity where absence used to live, and the air sweetened. Emma said, I will go when I want, and come home to myself, and the promise rang true. A draft application waited with a cursor that believed her. Emma said, I will not narrate us anymore, and the silence agreed. She set an alarm for one time zone, and smiled at its simplicity. Emma said, I hope you learn to arrive for real, and the wish did not tether. The city hummed like a ship that would not sink for anyone. Emma said, I learned to swim, and the night held. She turned off the lamp and let darkness be ordinary and kind. Emma said, the story ends where I begin again, and the line fit. A final memory tried to bargain and failed. Emma said, and that was the last time his name ever lit up my phone, and nothing in her reached for the light.